Aloha everybody, we're back. We have 14.2.1 and we're gonna get out of this parking garage and head over to a Whole Foods parking garage. I've noticed that escaping parking garages on V14 has been a weak area, maybe because it can't read signs, but getting into parking garages has actually been pretty good as long as it can find the entrance in my experience. So I'm hoping that it'll do well on this Whole Foods parking garage that we go to, because when it works, it just relieves so much stress of like, am I gonna hit the edge of the parking garage, like the wall? Am I gonna hit a cone or anything? You know, you just don't have to worry about that. Now, FSD has chosen the wrong way here. It's going up into this parking garage. We need to go down. Great job giving space to that truck. Now, I like how it didn't just go all the way straight into the wall, just keep going until it couldn't go anymore and then turn around. That movement into reverse while we were still moving was very smooth and natural. So the car has us turned around again. I'm guessing now that it literally maxed out the option of going up, we should be able to get down and out pretty easy. FSD is doing a really good job of seeing these stop signs that are sometimes posted on a beam above us, sometimes posted on the side. So great job there seeing those stop signs, even though they're in weird places. We made it to the gate. Let's see if it gets me close enough, because a lot of times it's so far away I can barely reach it. So it stopped perfectly at the right spot.
Please drive safely.
And it was just about at probably at my max arm length's reach. But I could reach. And you saw some steering indecision there. And I've noticed that kind of instead of the brake stabbing, the way that they've solved it is, one, just slowing the car down. Got this Jeep to our right driving in a bike lane and this pedestrian crossing here. And you know, that's an instance I, as a human driver, am looking at that Jeep moving. I didn't even see the pedestrian at first crossing because I'm focused on the car that's driving in a bike lane. So that really is a situation where having a bunch of different cameras around the car looking in all directions at once is beneficial. And you see here how the car just kind of creeps out slowly. I think in previous versions, those would have been, you know, brake stabs, pumping the brakes, whatever you want to call it. But here we don't have that anymore. The car is slowly but decisively just rolling forward until it can see what it needs to see, or until something crosses its path and it comes to a full and complete stop at that point. More relying on the regen braking than the hard friction brakes we were getting in 14.1 versions. So I think that's a great solution that they've come up with, is to just slow the car down a bit, let it creep out cautiously but calculated, and have it go from there. The second Side effect maybe of fixing that is I can still see the car thinking, but this time it's through the steering. So I've seen definitely more steering wobbles. I just saw that my camera was overexposed there for you. So apologies for that. I think I fixed it now. But yeah, so the steering wheel wobbling a bit, those have been more frequent. However, I'm not sure that it's really that obvious to other drivers because we're not really swerving or anything. It's just kind of, wobbling back and forth. That said, if you were on 14.1 or on V13 waiting for version 14 to be fixed, I feel like at this point I could recommend going ahead and updating to version 14. I have not watched anyone else's videos on 14.2 yet, so these are all just my thoughts based on driving for about 2 days on it. Yeah, if you're on V13, I think now is the time to update. The smoothness is back. It is slower, but the smoothness is back. Because it is slower, I find myself riding around in Hurry and Mad Max more. Before, I was often in Chill or Standard. Now, Hurry feels just about right, and then when I'm actually in a hurry, Mad Max has been pretty perfect. Seems like Standard kind of caps out about 5 over. Hurry caps out at around 10 over. And Mad Max is similar, like 10 to 12 or 15 over on the highway. But unrestricted, it doesn't seem like in neighborhoods and residential areas that Mad Max is treating that the same way that it would treat a highway, in other words. So like, it's 25 in a neighborhood, I'm in Mad Max, so I can go 40. It hasn't been doing that. I've been in Mad Max in a neighborhood with no one in front of me, and it's been doing, I'd say if the speed limit was 25, it'll go about 30, 31, 32 tops. It's moving through that neighborhood. It's faster than I would go, but you're in Mad Max. Like, that's better than it was before. And I do think it's important for these speed profiles, since we don't have max speed control now. I think it is important for these speed profiles to take into account context, because 10 over on the highway is not the same thing as 10 over in a neighborhood, in my opinion. Got a pretty tough left-hand turn here. Looks like 2 of the 3 lanes over on the opposing side are closed due to construction. So all of the cars are in a single lane. The last car that was able to turn had to creep out to the middle of the intersection and turn once the light turned red. So I'm interested to see, maybe we'll get lucky and looks like the next light down turned red, so maybe there'll be a gap. Or maybe we'll get a gap from the cars up there turning, but now our light is yellow. So we creeped forward a little bit, but because the light was yellow, we missed out on that cycle. All right, so we're creeping up. This is good. I think we need to do this in this situation. You know what? I'm in Standard right now. I think I'm going to crank us up to Hurry, because really that is where I've been kind of settling the last couple days in 14.2.1. All right, there's a car turning up ahead, so I think that'll give us enough of a gap that we can go. Awesome. Thank you, car up there. All right, we're about 2 minutes out from this Whole Foods. Let's make sure we've got parking garage selected. Ooh, I do not have an option for parking garage. And pretty much every time I've gone here, I have had that option, so I wonder what changed. Interesting. We'll see what the car does. It just says park. There's no specific park option selected. It's just saying park under hurry. I wonder what it thinks it's going to do. Now that was an instance where definitely previous versions would have stabbed the brakes. Pedestrians were crossing, right? And then that construction worker was going to cross kind of at the end of when all the rest of the crosswalk had cleared. He started to move forward, but the cars had already moved into the crosswalk because the pedestrians had cleared. Previous versions 100% would have stabbed the brakes with his forward motion showing intent into the crosswalk. I like how it just moved, it continued to move through. There's no reason to stab the brakes, and it didn't do it. So good job. Good job, FSD. All right, here we go. We're going into the parking garage. This is the correct entrance. There's 2 entrances to this garage, and I've actually never seen it go into this side before. So pretty cool. I'll try to keep an eye on my camera exposure. Last time it must have gotten messed up at some point and I didn't realize it. Sorry about that, but hopefully it's okay for you now. Now, what level will it choose? I don't know, but that second level we just passed, that was the first of the Whole Foods levels. This is an extremely tight area that always gives me anxiety. And there's no way I would have ever taken it that fast if I were driving. But the car did it, no problem. And it felt very safe. So this is the second level of the Whole Foods parking. So you can park here for Whole Foods. I mean, there's an elevator up here. I see no issue with that. Looks like FSD has selected a spot. And we're backing in. Lots of people around. No brake stabbing. What are you doing here? There we go. Kind of a rough attempt at this spot. But it does say in the release notes that improved parking quality will be coming. So ultimately we made it into the spot. We're fairly centered. A little more space on the right side, but I'll take it. So let's keep going. Let's get out of this garage. Let's see how it does getting out of here. Okay, so here, this is a one-way. There's an arrow painted on the ground facing us, but this is the correct exit. So for the rest of this drive, we're going to be going through a little bit of city, a middle section of highway driving, and then we're going to have a pretty curvy road that was suggested by one of you, Halikoa Drive, up to the very top. And this video is going to be part 1 of a 2-part video. Part 2 will be coming down that curvy road. We'll get some nice views of Diamond Head as we do that, and we'll see how FSD does steering through a neighborhood with cars parallel parked on the side. So if you want to see that video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and that way you'll be notified. You'll see it in your feed when I release it. Great, got out of that parking garage, no problem. I'll take that. That felt good. And guys, I'm sorry about this exposure that you're getting on the inside of the car here. I'm doing my best to keep an eye on it. I would really like to buy some better cameras to capture this at a high quality for you, but I've got to build the channel first in order to do that. So I'm going to do my best to put out at least weekly videos and maybe more depending on the FSD update schedule. If you like videos like this and you want to keep seeing them, give me a thumbs up, like the video, comment, tell me what you'd like to see in the future. Very courteous driving here, letting the guy go ahead and park. We've got a red light ahead, so we're not going anywhere. Makes sense to me. Toward the end of December, we'll be going to Florida, the Central Florida area, and we'll be driving a Model 3 with FSD. So I'm hoping to do a couple as while we're there. Since we're stopped, let's go ahead and take a look at the release notes here. Not a whole lot of change to it. There is one bullet point that was added, which is that camera visibility can lead to increased attention monitoring sensitivity. Now, that makes sense to me. If we're talking about moving up to a level 3 autonomy where you don't need to pay attention unless we tell you to pay attention, that makes complete sense. Like, don't pay attention unless I can't see, then yeah, I need you to pay attention or clean the cameras or whatever. So, makes sense. I'm glad that it has that ability to recognize that instead of just making crazy decisions. That's great. Also, you can see in here we've got the 3D buildings. My only maybe personal preference request for this would be that since we have the 3D buildings, I would like to see it zoomed in a little bit more and also angled further down the road. So right now I would say, like, if this were kind of a drone shot angled down at the car, it'd be at probably maybe like a 70-degree angle or something. I would like to see it zoomed in a bit and angled down to about 50 degrees. That way we can still see the road, the blue path in front of us just as far, but the buildings, the 3D buildings, will have a more dramatic effect. I think that would be cool. It's not completely necessary, but yeah, I just think it would be cool. Like, what if you could see it like that, but it was angled down more so that you could see further ahead on the screen? That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. Would you guys like that, or is it good like this? I mean, it functions fine like this. It looks great, but I guess because it looks great like this, I would just like to see it more dramatic. We've also got Tron mode on this update, and I think that's just about it. The self-driving stats are here as well, so you can see this is, I told you I've been driving for about 2 days on here, and I've driven 77.3 miles total, 76.8 of which have been self-driving miles. So, you know, when people ask me about FSD, or, you know, they just say, oh, I don't think I would use it that much. How much do you use it? I usually say, you know, I'm driving about, or the car is driving itself about 95% of the time. I just tend to take over at the ends or maybe at the beginning due to like navigation preferences, which is true. But here, it's really nice to be able to see, like, you drove this many miles since 14.2 and this many miles have been self-driven by the car. 99% of my miles have been driven by the car. That's incredible. I was talking to a friend the other day, and they were skeptical about the camera situation. They've never driven a Tesla. They don't have a Tesla. And I was just explaining to them, or trying to explain to them, how good it actually is. This was before I had 14.2. And I told him, I drive 95% of the time, probably, maybe 98. The car is driving, and I'm in FSD. And, I think that I've actually become a worse driver because I use FSD so much. Like, when I go to drive my wife's car, which is an ICE vehicle, I really feel like I'm overloaded with information. I'm like looking everywhere. I'm obviously looking over my shoulder to change lanes. Like, my visibility feels limited. Like, I don't know. I just never felt like that driving before. But now that I have FSD, it just does it all, and it's not a skill that I'm using as much. So that makes sense. Use it or lose it. Maybe not completely lose it, but it's not going to be as honed in. That's for sure. A little bit of lane change hesitation there, and I have noticed that is still prevalent in this version on the highway, but it doesn't show itself as harshly as it did in 14.1. The reason being, in 14.1 it would be very jerky with the steering, with the braking, all of that. Now everything is just a bit slower and maybe more calculated. So it slowly moves over to the line, and if it changes its mind, it slowly moves back. So it's giving you that feeling of smoothness, even though it is hesitating to get over. And at this point, navigation and lane change hesitancy are my two big issues with FSD. Both of which, you can sit here and deal with. It's just FSD has gotten so good that we're down to preferences, in my opinion. Navigation, I would like to have custom routes. If you're not going to allow me to change it mid-drive, at least let me choose the route that I like, and then the car can drive on its own. Because my only option as of now is to disengage and then re-engage once I'm on the route that I like. And I don't want to disengage. I want to let the car do it. It's just I have a specific route I want to go. On that, in navigation, it would be cool if I could choose a parking spot that I like. For example, when you fold your mirrors in, you can choose to save that at this location, and then every time you go to that location, it'll fold in, and then when you leave, it'll fold out, right? What if we could do that with parking spots? Like, I park my car in my shared driveway in a specific spot, and then I save it, and now the car knows every time I come here, not only should it be at this location, but use the cameras and look around to see what it looks like. This is what it should look like when I park. And then every time you come home, it'll park there. Or maybe at work, it'll park in your work parking spot. And it can kind of visually triangulate itself using landmarks like trees or signs, or I don't know, even counting, it's the 5th parking space from the end on the right, I feel like AI is to that point that that's not out of the question. So we're in hurry. The speed limit is 50. It's reading that correctly. And we're going 59. This feels comfortable. You can see we're moving with traffic. Feels very normal. Let me double check our pin at the end here. You can see that curvy road on the screen. That looks good to me. And we're just going to do curbside on it. I don't want to be pulling into anyone's driveway. In one of my previous videos, I figured out that FSD does not like this particular pair of sunglasses that I have on. And I have them on now, and it's been great with 14.2. It has not at all been giving me a strike or making me touch the wheel at all in 14.2, and literally as soon as I put on these glasses with 14.1, it was having me touch the wheel. So that's been a really nice return to what was normal in V13 for me. As we get to these more advanced levels of FSD, I should really test the attention monitoring a bit more. I only have limited cameras right now, so again, that's kind of, maybe something I'll be able to do more easily as the channel grows, and hopefully we can have some revenue to reinvest into the channel and get multiple cameras going. So this is a unique situation here. I haven't seen this in other states, but in Hawaii, you get these signs that are no U-turn or left turn, but only when coned. So we're going to do a U-turn here. There's no cones out. They will, in order to make more room for traffic, they'll physically put out cones on the other side and make it traffic like oncoming to that side to add an additional lane. So we are allowed to do a U-turn right now. This is all good. Very comfortable speed, smooth. I'm here for it. If you're still watching, thank you so much. We're about to come up on that curvy road, ascending up a mountain. So I'm anticipating there might be a little bit of some blind curves going up here, or at least limited visibility. There's some pedestrians crossing up here to the right. Okay, but they're not coming our way, so we should go. Go. Good job. Okay. So that was what I would call a hesitation, but not a pumping of the brakes, not a brake stab. It slowed itself down, gave itself time to think or whatever it needed to do. It was a little bit awkward because I had that big truck behind us. I don't think you guys could see that, but there was a big truck behind us. Now that right there was a braking event that should not have happened. I still don't think that was a brake stab. It wasn't bad driving. It didn't put us in danger. It was just unnecessary. We had that pedestrian on the right-hand side that was kind of turning the corner to walk up the hill parallel to us. It seemed like the car was anticipating that he might cross the street. So I'm glad it's aware that that could happen, but like we had a lot of space before coming to the point of saying, okay, this guy is crossing the street. I think maybe they should put that buffer a little further out for the car to make that decision, because yeah, we had a lot of room in there. And again, I'd have to go back and look to see exactly, like, did it use the friction brakes, but just by the way it felt, that felt like regen with maybe a little bit of friction, but it was just a strong regen brake type of feeling. we're about 4 minutes out from our destination here. Remember, this is part 1 of a 2-part video. Second part, we're going to be going down this incline here. Get some nice views on that drive, and we're going to be going into Waikiki to the International Marketplace parking garage, where there is a supercharger inside. So I want to see, not only can you get into the parking garage, which it's been pretty good at. We saw that on this drive, that it was able to get into the parking garage. But can you find the supercharger in the parking garage? I don't know how it's going to do that without reading signs, but we're going to find out. Great job with lane centering, speed control. You know, it's 25. We're in a hurry going, you know, anywhere from 18 to 23, 24. This feels confident. This feels comfortable. As these cars are coming around these blind turns, there is no braking or hesitancy whatsoever. Going back to the 3D map, you know, it currently doesn't show the 3D buildings in our top right corner with FSD full screen. Maybe, since it's a limited view anyway, when you zoom in, maybe they could show some 3D buildings there, you know. I don't know. The danger in that is it being too cluttered on that main screen, but that would be interesting to see what that looks like too. Again, zoomed in, angled down a little bit so you can still see the path. Guys, this ascent has been flawless. That 99% on FSD is no joke. All right, as we approach our destination, I just want to thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, I really do appreciate it. Please, if you could, drop me a like, throw me a comment. Let me know what you thought of this video, of the parking garages, of 14.2.1 if you have it. If you don't have it, what do you think? Are you gonna upgrade? Are you coming from V13? Let me know. I will see you guys in part 2 of this video. Aloha.